back to Daddy Lessons with Dashia D. Today I have a very special guest with me. He is a graphic designer, a creative, a Navy. He's a part of the Navy, and he is one of my closest friends for the last almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Woo, right. I already turned 30. He'll get there.
Right.
And you're also my first guy on the show.
Okay. I feel special.
Yes. So I saw something in the news where basically Michelle Obama and her brother, I don't know his name, I'm so sorry to that man. They had a podcast together, and Barack came on, and there is a snippet from that podcast that has been going viral. I'm going to play it, and then I want your reaction to it.
In college, at a time when openly gay folks still weren't outlawed, who became one of my favorite professors and was a great guy and would call me out when I started saying stuff that was ignorant. You need that to show empathy and kindness. And by the way, you need that person in your friend group so that if you then have a boy who's gay or non-binary or whatever, they have somebody that they can go, okay, I'm not alone in this.
So when I saw it, I didn't see anything wrong. I mean,
right.
I didn't see anything wrong. I saw it, I'm like, oh, okay, move on to the next video. But apparently, there have been a lot, I've only seen men, but there have been a lot of men that have come out onto social media and they're complaining, like, why is he promoting young boys having gay mentors? And I'm glad he's out of office, and just a lot of other disparaging things. When I feel like they completely missed the point.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Okay, so basically what I gathered from that was that, I guess he was sharing his experience during college or undergrad or at some point during his education, where he had a professor who's gay, just providing like normal advice. It wasn't like a therapist, right?
No, it was just
a regular mentor
who happened to be gay.
Okay, and so the men in the world are in an uproar because he just happens to be gay. Why does that matter? like why does that matter? Like if he went to him or the professor provided some level of like assistance to help him through his education, it shouldn't matter who he sleeps with. Unless like he's not doing anything inappropriate, I don't see what the big problem is. It's just as much people who have, credentials to educate anyone, no matter if they're gay, bi, purple, green, whatever. So it's pointless. It is,
Yeah, and I mean, obviously it was rooted in a lot of homophobia.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, a good person is a good person, regardless of their background, what they look like, who they love. And I would prefer someone who is a good teacher to mentor my child who happens to be gay than someone who isn't and is not a good influence. But I think that just gave them an opportunity to be homophobic and to have some type of camaraderie with other homophobic men.
Yeah.
To get some clicks and views or, whatever.
Oh,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say a lot of that stuff, like, I feel like at this point is clickbait, at this point, like we're in 2025 and I don't understand like why is still to this day, still such an issue for, the, what's the word I'm looking for? The acceptance of having not only just like, gay men or gay adults in young men's lives, but educated, So, because they're everywhere, so some personal friends of mine. So it's not even like a big deal or anything like that. Like it's just crazy to me that we're still having to face this to this day, or people having, comments. That's why I feel like to this day, I feel like people just want to have something to say.
But I will say one thing that is different in Atlanta, a different experience for me compared to growing up in Charleston.
Yeah.
And I work in the school system. It's normal. It's normal to see kids who have same-sex parents, but also it's normal for us to just have students who are LGBTQ. And it's not a thing per se in the school. And I don't know if that's their generation or the fact that we're in a LGBTQ friendly city, but it's a very different experience. And I'm happy that they have that, because that was not the case. No.
Oh my God. Yeah. And it's so crazy because I actually just had seen a post, I think I sent it to you, of the girl who was going off about how mostly men have an issue with gay men who are even just friends or anything like that. But that dives into a whole nother conversation, and I know we got other stuff to talk about. So yeah.
Like I said, we can let it flow, because honestly, this is the last thing, then we're gonna get into Trey's story. It makes me think about, what's his name? Lil Baby's son. He's what, 5 years old?
So the rap boy.
Really young. He's really young. He has to be younger than 8.
Okay.
And one thing that I find disturbing is when his mom posts just regular videos of him. He's a little kid who likes to bounce around, do cartwheels and whatever else. There are so many adults weighing in on his sexuality.
Just
every time.
A cartwheel?
Who is it?
Just because he busts a cartwheel?
Honestly, to me, it seems like he would be good in gymnastics, because he'll do cartwheels into a split, or just and he will copy certain things that his mom or his aunt says, and has their mannerisms because he's around them. So people are in the comments, men and women. Oh no, he need to be with his daddy. Oh no, he need to be more like this insert celebrity child. Or he needs to be doing it. And I'm like, he's 5. He's 5. He is a kid who is just, he has a lot of energy, it seems. Wants to let it loose. But the fact that grown people are in the comments talking about his sexuality, he act like this, I just find it really sad, because he don't even get a chance to just be a kid.
Yeah. I actually agree with that. And and we'll get into this, but personally, I had a similar experience of people just kind of dictating who you are before you even have a chance to even develop as a human. And that is the most saddest part, because again, you're a grown adult and you don't know how that child's going to turn up 20 years later, just because he wants to, not even express, but just simply just be a child. He's just being, he's just existing at 5 years old. This man can't tell his head from his toenail. I'm just give the man a chance to breathe and really just explore and stuff like that. I just feel especially in the Black community, a lot of parents, men and women, are so quick to push this young Black kid to just do one thing because that's what society says he should do as a young Black boy. So yeah, it's the most annoying thing ever.
Speaking of that, so we met when we were 11, I want to say.
Yeah.
But I did not get to meet. Let me see if I have it. Yes. Can you see that? You can't see that?
I can now, yeah.
Okay. I was like, hold up. I did not get to meet this little guy. You look like you have to be 3 or 4. You don't look that old in this picture.
Yeah, I probably was 4 or 5. I remember where that was taken and everything.
So tell us the backstory to this picture.
So my aunt's best friend at the time, she owned a bar next to North Charleston High School. Do you know what Junction is now?
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're familiar, you know, from Charleston or whatever, Junction used to be like, before it became what it was now, was kind of like old and abandoned for some time. But way before that, like during that time period, it was like a neighborhood bar. You know, mostly Black folks came in there, and so my aunt best friend used to own that bar. And so, you know, during that time, we would just like, you know, hang out as a family. You know, sometimes go over there, I'll just eat, and that's where we were. And and just like, you know, with this person smiling right here, just a green jacket, just again, just being a kid, you know. So
go ahead.
now I was just gonna say, like, you know, anytime like my mom or my aunt was babysitting me and my brother at the time, we would just kind of go there just to hang out. Because I remember like my mom was probably working until about 5 or 6, and of course we got out of school at like 2, 3:30 stuff. So it was that time period where you just was pretty much with any family member who was free.
Pretty much. We had a village.
Yeah, it definitely was a village, and my grandmother didn't live too far away from that bar. It's literally right by that duck pond. So yeah,
if you live in Charleston, it's like near Park Circle.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you're listening and not watching on YouTube, the picture you'll see Trey as like a 4 or 5-year-old. He has a fresh haircut with the little crisp line, giving a 90s feel jean jacket.
Apart, what they call
right.
it.
Let me see. So, as a kid, because you have an older brother, y'all are 6 years apart.
5
years apart.
Yeah.
What was that like? Like, were you and your brother and your dad doing boys' days or hanging out together? Like, describe what that was like when you were growing up?
Yeah, we definitely had boys' days where it would just be like us 3, you know, going to the park or the beach, or like my dad's side of the family's, you know, functions and stuff like that. So we definitely like, you know, had that time and stuff. And so, you know, me and my brother like were very close during my early years and stuff like that. And so, you know, we were basically pretty much inseparable. It was, you know, just us 2. And then, you know, my parents ended up like divorcing when I was like, I don't remember exactly what age, but it was definitely before like 10, or separated first and then got divorced. So that whole thing. And so, you know, even with their situation, my parents, my dad still kind of like, you know, made it a point to either take us out or have us hang out with his side of the family. So I personally didn't like, you know, feel like I missed out, you know? So yeah. Mm-hmm.
What do you think changed with you and your brother?
Growth. And to be honest with you, like, I just feel like we definitely kind of, even though we grew up in the same household, we have 2 different personalities. For sure. Like, for those of you who don't know, I'm an openly gay man. And that, not to say that it has anything to do with him and I, like our relationship, because we're definitely like, you know, cool, we're cordial and stuff like that. But like, you know, just to kind of like go back into my childhood, my brother was the athlete. He was the jock. And if you're like very familiar, not even just being from the South, but like just from like, you know, school in general during that early 2000 stage, you know, there was definitely like a set group of people, you know, and like the popular kids, not so popular or whatever. My brother definitely was the jock of his, you know, time when it came to like his peers and stuff like that. And me, where I was much more timid, much more quiet and stuff. And so like that coupled with, you know, just trying to like, you know, figure out who I am, because, you know, during that stage, I was the one called a faggot and gay and girl and stuff like that. Whereas my brother, he was, you know, worshipped, you know, and stuff like that. So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that was pretty much was it.
So, well, 2 things. First thing is, I want to say, as your friend of almost 2 decades, that's a long time. You should be proud of that. Most relationships will make it past 6 months. Yeah. So, I am really happy for you that you feel empowered enough to just be who you are.
Yeah.
Because I know that we probably wouldn't have been having this conversation on a podcast a year ago, 2, 5, you know, whatever. So that's the first thing I want to say. Second, I honestly did not know that you were being called out of your name. in school. And I say that because, like, I know Trey just said, you know, his brother was the jock and he was popular for being an athlete, but Trey was also popular in school, at least in high school. Trey was popular. I would say that because I feel like you were able to kind of get along with every group, you know? So I honestly thought that everybody just liked you. You could do no wrong. Girls had crushes on you. And I had no idea that people were saying, you know, slurs at you or anything like that.
Yeah. And honestly though, like I was, to be honest with you, like a people pleaser at that time. So like if I felt like for me, if I just kind of like just got along, you know, made them laugh, made them happy, that would quiet the noise of the slurs that came on the other end. So I was kind of like on this, you know, totem pole of like, I don't like this, you know, being said about me. So how could I switch the narrative to be just the funny guy who just got along with everybody, you know? And so that was kind of like how I went into a lot of friendships during that time period. So what you see was popularity was me trying to shift the narrative a little bit.
Got it. That makes sense. I
think the
movies say that a lot too. That they try to like not be bullied by being funny.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that was my way of kind of like quieting that noise and stuff like that. And yeah, you know, girls did have crushes, have like crushes on me and stuff like that. And it was just like, what was I supposed to do with that? I'm just sitting here still trying to like, you know, process a lot, just like as a young adult at that time. So it just was like, yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of pressure. And I always just kind of kept a safe face in front of y'all. But sometimes, not a lot, but like it was moments where I definitely broke down when it was just me by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was never at school. It probably was like at home. Like something.
Yeah, I don't remember you ever getting upset at school.
Yeah.
As far as like emotional.
Yeah.
Pissed off, yes. I just think about the split ticky of snacks from that vending machine.
Oh my god! I got in trouble for some dumb shit. Like I don't know, I got in trouble for some dumb stuff.
You cuss on here?
I've got stories like hell. But go ahead.
What was I about to say? Oh, so as a young Black boy, I have to put emphasis on that as well because you're already dealing with societal issues being Black and then adding you know being gay to it.
Yeah,
that's a lot for a young person to deal with. Like at what point, because I know you've gotten this question before, but at what point did you accept that you were gay? Because it's a difference between like knowing, having an idea, but at what point did you accept it?
Definitely when I told my parents, for sure. Like, yeah. So that was 2018, because it was before I moved here. So yeah, 2018, around that time. And so for me, it was just like, I told people that I felt like was necessary, that I felt like who wouldn't judge, obviously. And so it was kind of like, each person I told, even including you, was a step closer to me having the courage to tell my parents. And then it was like, I feel like I can like move on, and I can move on with this type of guy. I can move in with this type of young Black gay boy from Charleston, South Carolina, and like, you know, let that be my first step into adulthood, you know? And so it was pretty much at that point where I just thought like, stop giving a fuck, stop caring. You know, and I always kind of like had that, I guess that part in me, like I said, during that time of me just trying to figure myself out. It just, after a while, after high school, I just got into this mode of like, people gonna talk about you, whether bad or good, indifferent, and just, it just kind of built that sense of independence to just be like, I'm gonna just protect myself at the end of the day, you know? Like at that point, my friends were, at that point, I knew like, who I could trust and lean on even before even saying anything and stuff like that. So it made it easier for me to like tell those same people to just be like, okay, here's what's going on.
So my mind is kind of blown. So you don't feel like you accepted it until you were 22?
Yeah. 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 Cause at that point, like I had already was in my first gay relationship. And then I knew at that point it's like, I think it's going to be a guy for the rest of my life. And so let me go ahead and kind of like, I guess for lack of a better word, soften the blow by telling my parents ahead of time, I just show up married and this nigga right here. And it's like more than a hard pill to swallow, you know?
Yeah.
At that point. So I was like, let me kind of give him a heads up or whatever. And that just made it feel comfortable for me because, you know, I'm close to both of my parents at this point, more so close to my dad. So yeah.
So we are going to get into that because as many people know, right? Like, first of all, some people don't even like the fact that people feel they have to come out. They feel like it's well, I don't want to speak for, as I said, the libido.
Like, I
but
literally
the idea of coming out just seems, I don't know. I guess they don't understand the point of it.
Yeah. And I was one of those people too. Like, I felt like for me, coming out was not going to be this whole press conference situation because one, I don't like, it's none of y'all business, first of all. And two, like, I don't think it's like the world isn't really going to care that much anyway. So I felt like for me, like my way of coming out was me just telling that those close net of people, like my safety net of people at the time. And then at the end or the goal, it being my parents. So that was my way of coming out, not just like trying to tell the world that this is happening or whatever. And then because at that point, like once I told my parents, I was like, shit, fuck everybody else, you know? So yeah, like I personally do hate that way of coming out to where people feel like you have to tell the world, or like even with straight people sometimes, like I feel like they feel like they have to, like you owe them something, you owe them a conversation in order for them to like really move on with this part of your life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. And I don't know that it's that straight people think that people owe them that conversation. If I can be honest, I've had off the top of my head maybe 10 people come out to me in my life.
Yeah.
Friends and family. And it's not so much that we think that you owe us that conversation. Sometimes if we kind of already have an inkling, I think it's so that we can just like breathe. We don't have to pretend like we don't see an elephant in the room. We can have real conversations about like how you feel and your true crushes. We don't want to pretend anymore. And I don't know if that sounds homophobic or if that sounds rude. That's how I see it. It's almost like, okay, we kind of already know that that is the case. And we just can't wait for y'all to just be like, okay, that's what it is. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Now let's keep pushing, and now let's have like real conversations now that everything is out in the open. At least that's how I feel when people come out to me.
So like, for example, like one person I told me like in response, boy, Charles waiting for you to tell me, like shit I already knew. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, because like imagine how having to, like you just said, you know, it's two strikes against me in this world or whatever like that. And so like, imagine having to be so anxious to build that courage to tell 10, 20, 30, 50 people of every person from your past or whatever like that. That shit is exhausting. Like emotionally draining. So it's like, if, you know, that one person that gave me that response is like 10 more plus people, it's like, at this point, just tell me you already know, you know, like,
when you say tell you already know, you mean come to you and say, hey, I know that you're gay?
Not in those words. Like, for example, I've had a friend tell me, Trey, I'm just waiting for you to tell me you already know. Like, even though, and I know it sounds weird, but like, that made me feel so comfortable because it took a lot of the anxiety away. It took a lot of the pressure away, you know, because like, again, like, you don't know how those people, you don't know how someone's going to receive it, especially being like a Black man having to come out to your straight friends, male friends, you know? So it's like, yeah, it does feel more comfortable when you're approached with that, so you can like really let your guard down. Like, okay, cool. Now I have to like, and not that I feel like I have to pretend, but it's just like you don't know how a lot of guys are going to receive that specifically.
And that's why I think people should be careful about telling somebody like, yeah, I already know, so just go ahead and tell me. I get what you're saying. Like that might work for you, but for another person, that could make that person shut down. Just because they may not be in the position that you were at 22. They may not have accepted that this is who I am. They may be going through the motions, right? But they're not fully accepting of it yet. Tell us about how those conversations went with your parents.
Jesus. Okay, so I'll start with my dad first. I told him first. So we and you never been to his house in Summerville, but anyway, so okay, yeah. So one of those nights, it was just us two, just chilling. This was around hurricane season. I'll never forget it. And so of 2018, yeah. And so like we were sitting in his garage, just like chatting it up or whatever. And I already knew like, I can't do this sober at all. And like, like in the background, I already was like talking to someone from out of town at that time. And so like I knew, and like I said, at that point, I already had like my first relationship and everything. And so I just knew at that point, like I had, taken the steps to know that this is who I am. And so I was like, okay, cool. Let's be easier. And me and my dad have always been close, even prior to me coming out and stuff. So anyway, we were sitting in the garage and, sipping. And then I finally like built the courage to just say, I gotta tell you something, bro. So I like heart is beating out of my chest, because of course, like the stigma of like, Black fathers not accepting that. But anyway, so I told him, hey, so I think I like guys. And so it got really quiet. And even though it was maybe like a minute or two, that was like the longest 2 minutes of my life. And I'm like legit dying inside of waiting for what his response is going to be. And he legit was like, Trey, I'm gonna tell you something. That don't change how much I'm proud of you, and it really like all of that pressure I felt literally went away. My heart dropped and I immediately just started shedding a tear, and so he told me like, Trey, I was proud of you since I saw you walking across that stage as number 7 at your high school graduation. This shit don't change me, or this shit don't change how I feel about you. That's just obviously that's, nothing as far as I agree with the world, but you my son at the end of the day. And so he told me that he really appreciated the fact that I stood up as a man and had the conversation with him face to face, as opposed to him hearing it out on the street,
Yeah.
So that, like I said, took a lot of the pressure away, and immediately it was like our first emotional conversation, obviously, like for obvious reasons and stuff like that. And then so we had an embrace and we hugged, and it really just solidified how close we are. Like I said, my dad is like my best friend, and it was immediately like support from day one. And still to this day, like he is like my best friend. And, he was still with that parent side to still guide me in certain ways as far as being a man, an adult. But I really do appreciate it. He was like, man, Trey, you are more of a man to just stand up and have this conversation with me as a man. And that's what I really appreciate. And so it was it was a good experience. Hard, but yeah.
I know I was gonna say that's I hope that's encouraging to other people, especially young men who want to have that kind of conversation with their dad or just male figures in their life. Yeah. Because I mean, did he do anything in your childhood that led you to believe that he wouldn't have been accepting of that? Or do you think that just was how society was? People are misogynistic and homophobic and
definitely society. Society was the pressure of it all for most of my childhood, for sure. Like my dad never, did anything, said anything. He didn't make me feel like if this was the direction I was going to go, this is how I'm going to judge you and stuff like that. And so yeah, I never felt like him as a person, was against that. It was more so society putting that pressure. And so, I was raised in a single parent household. My mom, my dad went some time and stuff. And so for a while, it was just me and my brother as far as like the men of the household. Yeah. And so, that leads into a whole sense of protection. Because like I said, even though me and my brother was raised in the same house, it's 2 different personalities, And during that time, I had lost, for me, that sense of protection, when my dad was around. So that was what I felt.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you had to talk with him first. It went really well. It was a good bonding moment. It brought y'all closer. How long after did you have the conversation with your mom? And did you still feel like you had to gear up emotionally to have that conversation?
Even more. Even more, 100%. I told my mom like a month later, I believe. Yeah. Because it was like shortly after, I think it's Memorial Day, that's in August, whichever one of those holidays is over there. But yeah. I just had got back from like a trip or something like that. And so anyway, so I told my mom like a month later, and it was in the middle of a hurricane. And so we were literally in her living room. It's just us two stuck. And of course, again, in my mind, I can't do this sober. So I'm supposed to be in the house, ain't nothing else to do. Like, that's at the time, it was like hurricane parties that we used to be posting on Snapchat. But anyway, so again, same thing. I gotta tell you something. And so I said the same thing, like, I think I like guys and stuff. And so, you know, with her, it was not the same response. It was a little more difficult or whatever. And, you know, just going back to my childhood, I was raised in a Southern Baptist church and stuff. And so I'm sure every gay Black boy from the South could relate to that experience and stuff. And so, you know, where it comes to religion is all not the religious side of it, plus society telling you this is not how a man should be. This is not what a man is supposed to like. This is not what a man is supposed to dress like, act like, all those things. And so, you know, me telling my mom was a much more difficult experience because, you know, she, like I said, she is raised in that. And so, you know, it took a minute for us to get to a place of understanding. And also, for me as an adult now, this is who I am. And so, you know, part of me accepting myself is to also accept the fact that I'm not going to have the same relationships or the same friends or the same connections with who I am today. So that's just something I've already accepted in my mind before. And like I said, you know, it took a minute for me and my mom to kind of get to a place of understanding. And so that's really what it was. So when I told her, she like, you know, needed a minute. And then asked me like a series of questions. I won't go into the questions, but yeah, she did ask me a series of questions just to kind of like understand my mindset, and did bring up certain things that happened, you know, not anything horrible, not traumatic or anything, like small things, you know, as far as like mannerisms during my childhood that she picked up on. And so, you know, it like that moment where I felt my heart beating with my dad was still going on like throughout that whole time, me having that conversation with my mother times 1,000, because I can clearly see that the expression was not so happy.
You're trying to basically say that she thought that could be the case since you were a kid, but just thought that you would grow out of it, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, and I mean, like, of course, you know, in my childhood is always, you know, push for the young Black men to play sports, specifically football and basketball. And I did I didn't play football, but I did play basketball, and I really did like it and everything. But like, I eventually, you know, when high school came, I was playing soccer and I ran track during my 8th grade year and stuff like that. But, you know, I mean, I still did things that in their mind, Black guys or Black boys should do.
And it's almost like so you know how we tend to code switch if we're in groups that are not like us. If a bill collector calls, people always joke, you answer the phone like, hello, this is such and such. You're code switching. It's almost like you had to code switch into being not hyper masculine, because I don't feel like you've ever been hyper masculine, but like you said, to try to fit this mold of what a boy should be.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you feel like you were still code switching up until you were 22 before you came out to that?
I feel like I still have to do it now, to be honest with you, but not like in a major way, to be honest with you. Like, obviously, like I don't consider myself to be, I know I'm not the most masculine guy in the world, but I'm also not the most feminine guy in the world, you know? So it's like certain spaces where, you know, I feel like I still have to kind of like, you know, not, for lack of better words, you know, wear certain things or say certain words, depending on like, you know, what friend I'm talking to or what atmosphere I'm around or what environment that I'm in. I feel like it's still, it's just kind of like, kind of comes with it's kind of a little bit, you know, especially where I feel like I still show up as a masculine presenting man. It's just, I like men, you know, so yeah.
I want to dig into this a little bit because I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
You can be honest because I really want to have the conversation.
Yeah.
Do you feel like do you code switch within our group of friends?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I would say the code switching mostly comes definitely when I go home. Yeah, it's definitely more so like when I go home and stuff like that. And I mean, it's just kind of natural at this point because I've been doing it. And it's like, I guess what I mean code switch is just like, I'm just not going to have certain conversations with people back home, you know? And maybe that doesn't really define code switching, is maybe just like omitting.
I think it's a part of code switching.
Yeah. And so like, it's definitely like I'm obviously not trying to be, you know, the person with all the attention showing up in like, you know, high ass booty shorts, something like that. Not that I would ever do that and stuff like that. But I feel like because like a lot of people take gay people as like it being only the flamboyant type of person, you know. And I think that like I'm not trying to like, you know, represent a certain type of person, but I know who I am at the end of the day. I mean, I still, you know, dress like a dude and all that stuff. It's just that I want to have certain conversations when I'm home versus when I'm with y'all. So that would be like my definition of code switching for me.
Got it. I mean, but even if you did, because I remember, I don't know if you had spoken to your parents about it or not yet, but it was this period of time where I think we were still in college, where we would go out and out. You probably remember this. We would go out to the club, which was very rare for me. And you had this era where you would wear your shirt opened. Do you remember that?
I remember that, yeah. That was like college. That was like that college going into like after college time. Yeah, I remember.
In that moment, that's when I was like, he's feeling himself. He is him. That like he is growing into whoever he is. But is that what you mean by like you wouldn't do that at home? Because you don't really do that now anymore. I feel like that was more of your college days. But as you said, dress a certain way. Like you're not gonna dress like a Saucy Santana. That's not your aesthetic.
Not at all. Yeah.
Right. But even if you were to dress like that, that would just be how you dress. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay, sorry.
No, I'm trying to think. Like, sometimes I think that there are people, their version of code switching is, for example, Saucy Santana. He goes live often on TikTok, and he'll have on his different wigs and outfits or whatever. But when his mom comes over to his house, he will not wear wigs. And so to me, that is his version of code switching. And so I wonder, when you go home and you're saying like you don't discuss certain things, and maybe for you that might mean your dating life.
Yeah.
Do you think that makes a difference in your family's level of acceptance?
Not really. Not really, because like leaving like that part of my life is something that, you know, to them is small. And plus, like I like dialogue. So if I'm going to talk about it, then I need to like, you know, have some level of like understanding and actually like have some camaraderie and be able to like, you know, have a one-on-one conversation. I feel like nothing against them, but like a lot of people from back home cannot have that same discussion, specifically when it comes to gay culture, you know. I had that conversation with my parents, you know, because I want to have that closeness with them. And that's a part of like us the dynamic for me as an adult. And so, but when it comes to, like, for example, I might not have that conversation with a lot of, of my male friends and stuff, because it's just different. And I just would like kind of like omit from like talking about my dating life too much.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
As your friend, to me, like you and Cassandra and Megan and Kiana, like y'all are family to me, right? Because we've been in each other's lives for so long. I don't even entertain. I'm in a relationship now. Let me just say that.
Yeah.
when I was dating, I would not even entertain people who were homophobic.
Yeah.
Because you and other people in my life are way too important to me to even allow y'all to be for me to bring y'all into a space that's not safe.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I guess my hope is that as life continues, that the other people in your life will do those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my hope. Because I feel like that is the only way for people to remain a part of their children's lives, is to not only be accepting, but to not allow them to be in spaces that feel unsafe to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I definitely appreciate the friendships that I have now, with both guys and girls and things of that nature and stuff, because I do feel more open to having some relationship discussions with certain people, but and it's just like now we've kind of set the tone for me to feel comfortable in that, and that's how I would like to receive that, because I'm very big into my boundaries this day and age, and that's besides me being gay. That's just me as an adult now,
Mm-hmm.
And so I love the fact that I have a village, and I do consider you guys family as well, because like as much as I have released so much of my emotional situations, or just like situations in general, you guys have really helped me understand myself. And I really do appreciate that. So I am getting there slowly but surely. Like you said earlier, I would have never sat here and had this conversation with you a year ago.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, and I'm, I've already kind of gotten past that level of acceptance for myself. And I think, as of like, last year, up until now, I've just hit this new place in my life of like, whoever is for me is for me.
Mm-hmm.
Friends, family, across the board. Like I don't really I like homophobic people. It's just like why at this day and age? Like what are they doing to you to make you feel like you're being forced into a box? Like it just never made sense to me ever. So, I've gotten to a point where like if it's not for me, I just immediately block it out, because it's like I'm not about to sit here and convince you of anything at this day and age. You can open up a book, you can look, you can go into Google, you can research anything you want. I'm tired of teaching or educating.
Everyone has feminine and masculine energy.
Yeah. Like
just period. I'm tired of hearing people being like, you're too much in your masculine energy, you need to rest in your femininity, and like the other way around. Because earlier you said you're not the most masculine, but I'm like, how not?
and I guess based off of like we talk about this on social media all the time. I just kind of feel like the day and age of like what a man is supposed to be is so fucking unhinged to me. Like, why is it for a man to like drink water with lemon? I don't understand that.
What?
Like, why is it
that was on social media?
Oh yeah, you see stuff like that on Facebook all the time. As a man, you shouldn't be blah blah blah. And I know most of that stuff is clickbait, but I think that gives leeway for homophobic people to have a voice, and it sounds stupid still, like. And so like stuff like that, or like as a man, you should be working at a fucking machine plant or some shit like that. Like instead, you in the house not sweating your brains out or slaving for the white man. I'm like, man, listen. It'd be so much stuff, and I'm just like, man, like, people can
eat banana, can't eat a hot dog.
Bruh, can't eat nothing. I can't even breathe, And so like I see that stuff and I'm like, these people are really miserable to sit here and think about what a gay man is doing. Like, it'd be so crazy to me, you know?
Yeah. What do you think that your dad taught you about being a man?
Whew. I would say the biggest thing he really taught me is to, again, going back to my level of independence, like he would always tell me, Trey, this is your life. So, you know, as your father, I'm going to tell you which route, you know, that would best work. But obviously at the end of the day, you make the decision. That's your level of independence. You know, as long as you know that if anything beyond decision you make, you also have to be able to accept the repercussions that come with that. And so for me, that really like has held me I've held on to that very closely, you know, and so my boundaries are very strict, you know, and I have gotten through this life of like, and sometimes I do forget sometimes that I do have a village that I can lean on, but I just be like, and I'm going through this stuff now of like really like being vulnerable. And I know I've been vulnerable with you specifically.
Yeah.
But like, you know, certain things, and it may be mostly like relationship stuff that I hold a lot in. And just also like kind of like a pile on of like being that friend that everybody wants to vent to and stuff. Cause my social battery is like low as fuck these days. You know, like, that's coming from me. Like seriously, I'd be tired as hell. But to answer your question, it would definitely be what I learned from him is definitely establishing my own independence, not really necessarily like relying on everyone. Like, of course, if you need something or you know want something, you can always ask, but don't guarantee that that person or thing is going to be available to you. So I just always know how to kind of like establish or ground myself. So that's really what I would say I learned from him.
Okay. And if there's one piece of advice that you could give to parents who are finding it difficult to fully accept their child's differences, what would that be?
I would say give your child a chance to speak because like I said before, that pressure is beyond exhausting. It can be hurtful. So I would say just listen. Just start off with listening. You know, I feel like a lot of people who come out these days have it much better than when I did it. For sure. Yes. Because the world is a little more accepting these days to where people can easily move on. Whereas like when I had it, it's like a series of questions that you feel like you have to, you know, survey in order to like get through the whole conversation. And then like you're judged and you're ridiculed as hell, you know? So I just feel like this day and age, definitely listen. And also, I want to say I reward the younger generation for sure because they're coming out at much earlier ages, like 10, 12 and stuff. I didn't do it until I was 22. So, you know, I really commend them for that. But I also just take the time to listen. And also once they reach a certain point of acceptance, you also got to take away that baby. Yeah, take away that baby that you raised because this is a grown ass man now or a grown, you know, whatever they decide, however they decide to move in their life. So it's best if you still want to obviously feel included in their lives and also take the time to get to know. And also as a gay person too, open up to your parents, you know, like, especially if they're showing effort, why not show the effort in return? And so that will be the best advice is definitely listening and communication and let that be the force as to making the dynamic much more stronger. You never know which way it's going to go. And if it does, and if it doesn't go the best way, then you know how to move and you can only like hold yourself accountable. So that would be my advice.
Okay. And sometimes it may just take time.
Exactly.
It's not going to just be one conversation. At all.
Yeah, there are going to be differences. There are going to be things that you're going to have to set for yourself. And also, again, going back to the boundaries part, you're old enough to set your own boundaries with anybody. So don't let anybody tell you that you can't, you know, and stuff. But also, you know, be respectful. There's your parents at the end of the day. And like I said, if someone, your mom or your dad, are showing the effort to at least gain understanding, be vulnerable. You don't have to be so closed off and be so defensive all the time.
Yeah, I agree. Good stuff. Comment below if you tell us about your coming out story. How does your parents take it? Or if you have a child that came out to you and you're having a difficult time with fully understanding it, or just you have questions, let us know. Thank you, Trey, for joining me today. We had a very thought-provoking conversation, because I'm probably going to leave it in like, be like, oh yeah, we said this, we said that.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. And also I want to say, to you personally, thank you for, allowing me the space to be, vulnerable on and off, camera. As you know, this is the first time I've ever publicly spoke about this. And so, it takes friends like you to help guide and really guide us into who we are today. So I want to
wow, don't make me cry on here.
I'm serious. Hey, a lot of guys who are raised, Southern, and who eventually come out as gay. A lot of people don't have that village. A lot of people are out at a young age and stuff like that. So, having, even if it's just one friend or one mentor or stuff like that, it really does make a difference to feel like we can go on and, move forward and grow up into who we ever decide that we want to be. So,
right. So you're doubling down on what Obama said. They haters.
That's like
right.
So yeah.
All right. I have been Dashia D, and I will see y'all 2 weeks from now. Join us every other week for a new episode and become a part of the Daddy Lessons podcast community, because everyone has a story and every story deserves to be heard.